Okay, so let's have activity number 4. This is entitled Measuring Volume. Okay, we are done with measuring mass, and then we are done with filtration also. So we are now sa measuring volume na. Class, take note that the unit for our volume is the liter. Okay? Ang ginagamit natin na unit for our volume is in liter. This is defined as 1 cubic decimeter. Though we can also use milliliter or in ml, that is 1,000 of a liter. And na siya, if we use ml, if na siya, masyado nang maliit or konti lang yung substances or substance natin, and it will be inconvenient to use the liter. Kasi a big unit kasi itong liter na ito. So pwede tayo mamili, either we use the liter or we use the ml. Now, what are the apparatus in the lab that we can use to measure volume? We have the pipette, we also have the burette, and at the same time, the volumetric flask. Okay? So, itong mga apparatuses na ito are actually marked by the manufacturer and naka-indicate yung calibration nila. Ang calibration nila, class, pwede silang TD, pwede din silang TC. Pag sinabi mong TD, these are the apparatus we use to deliver, and pag TC naman, it's to contain. And at the same time, you can see in the apparatuses kung anong temperature yung um, nag-a-apply yung calibration na iyon, yung TD or TC. Okay? So, yung pipettes and burettes are ordinarily calibrated para mag-deliver ng specified volumes. Yun mostly yung gamit ng ating burette and pipette to deliver. Though meron din tayong to contain, but most of the time, we use the volumetric flask para mag-contain ng ating chemical. So, yun yung difference nilang tatlo. Now, for your activity, you will be researching this. Mag-research kayo nito and you have to fill in the table. So, this is actually for the pipette. So, letter A, using a pipette. You have to supply the needed information for the following types of pipette. Okay? Types of pipette ito, you have volumetric, you have more, and as you can observe, number 3 and number 4 are both serological pipette because we have two types of calibration sa serological. Ang types of calibration, class, pwede siyang to contain or to deliver. So si serological, pwede siyang to contain, pwede din siyang to deliver, kaya na dalawa yung nakasulat dyan. We have Ostwald Falling pipette also. And just like the serological pipette, you can also see number 6 and number 7, dalawa ding lambda na pipette. Kasi again, meron siyang to contain, meron din siyang to deliver na type of calibration. And then the last one, you have the Eppendorf pipette. So you have to supply the needed informations like the type of calibration. We only have two types of calibration, to deliver and to contain. And then you have to supply the function also of the types of pipette, available capacity, this is in ml, and the type of drainage. So example sa type of drainage, kaya ka ng mga blowout pipette, ba when you say blowout pipette, ubusin mo talaga lahat ng laman. Okay, you have to research for this. And then, that's the first one. And then we have cleaning the pipette. How do we clean the pipette, class? You have the procedure there na gagamitin natin yung detergent solution. Ipapasok natin siya doon sa pipette using a pipette bulb, syempre. And then, iano natin siya, pag napasok na kasi siya sa pipette, we make sure na lahat ng sides ng pipette sa loob will be ma-expose doon sa detergent solution natin. And then after ma-expose lahat ng interior surface, we will drain the detergent solution and huhugasan natin ang pipette ng water. So, pwede siya tap water, and then inspect tayo kung meron pa bang mga dumi sa loob, like film breaks, and then i-repeat lang natin yung pag-wash ng tap water. And then the last one will be the distilled water. So detergent solution, tap water, and then we have distilled water. Okay? Pero I have a video here, an example on how to clean the pipette before using it. Yung sa yung sa video lang, hindi na siya nagamit ng tap water, dumiretso na siya sa distilled water. So after the soap solution, 'di ba? Pinasok niya yung soap solution doon using the bulb, and then i-wet lahat ng interior surface of the pipette, and then i-drain, and then supposedly kasi kung titingnan natin sa mga books, you have to wash it with tap water first, and then you have to repeat the procedure with the washing sa tap water before you go on with the distilled water. Sa video lang is nagdiretso na siya doon sa distilled water. But it's how you do it. Ang titingnan niyo lang doon sa video kung paano niya ginawa. You have to draw water from the container, and then you make sure iikot mo yung pipette mo, and then you make sure na lahat ng surface or interior surface ng pipette ay ma-wet with the water. So that's the cleaning of the pipette. Now, how about measuring an aliquot? When you say measuring an aliquot, we will be measuring the substance na kailangan natin. So remember, di ba, a pipette has a calibration mark. So magme-measure tayo hanggang doon sa calibration mark mismo. So sa steps naman nung pagkuha and pag-measure ng solution na needed natin, ito yun siya, medyo mahaba lang siya, no, yung ating procedures. But I'll give a video later so that meron din kayong idea on how to do this. So first, you have to use a rubber bulb. Yung blue kanina, we call it the rubber bulb or the aspirator, para makakuha tayo ng solution or ng liquid doon sa container natin. So i-use natin yon to draw a small volume of the liquid to be sampled into the pipette. And just like the washing procedure kanina, we have to wet the entire interior surface of the pipette with the solution na kailangan nating gamitin. And then i-drain natin, and then let's repeat the procedure at least 2 more additional portions. And then sa inyong activity, you have to explain bakit kailangan natin to gawin. Na before tayo um, mag-measure ng solution na kailangan natin or sample natin, kailangan muna na yung interior surface ng pipette natin is mabasa or magkaroon ng exposure sa solution. Okay? You explain that the purpose of the first procedure. And then once na the pipette has been wetted by the sample, i-fill in na natin siya to level somewhat above the graduation mark. So remember that the pipette is like this. Wait, let me draw it. So remember that the pipette looks like, ay, dako siya. Anyway, ano dapat siya ha? Okay? Okay, and then we have a calibration here on top. So, gamit tayo ng bulb class to draw liquid from the container, and then after wetting all the surfaces with the solution, we can now start measuring the solution. So, using the pipette bulb gihapon, i-fill in natin itong pipette pero above the calibration mark. So, i-fill in natin siya hanggang sa taas pa ng graduation or calibration mark. And then, quickly replace the bulb with the forefinger. After na umabot siya dito hanggang sa taas, kunin natin yung bulb, and then ang gagamitin na natin is our finger. This forefinger natin to arrest the outflow of the liquid. So the purpose why we replace the bulb with our finger is to stop the flow of the liquid inside. Kasi kung bulb lang talaga yun ang naka-attach sa pipette natin, mababaliwala lang din yung kinuha natin na liquid kasi mag-flow lang siya outside. So make certain that there are no bubbles in the bulk of the liquid or foam at the surface. Kasi sometimes, if we are not really expert in using the pipette, nagfo-form ng bubbles inside. So especially if wala na siyang liquid na na-suck in, air na yung napapasok sa loob, so magkakaroon ng bubbles. So you have to get rid of the bubbles by letting the or draining the pipette, okay? But if you drain the pipette, do not return the solution to the original container because it will cause contamination. You have to discard it totally. Kailangan itapon na yon kung i-drain natin yung ating pipette, okay? And then, we have to tilt, if this is the pipette, we have to tilt the pipette slightly from the vertical and swipe the exterior free of adhering liquid. Yung ginagamit nila, class, yung Chem wipes na pinupunas nila outside. Magkaiba kasi yun siya sa tissue. Ang ordinary tissue kasi merong mga particles, parang hairy or thread-like particles yung tissue paper na mag-a-adhere sa surface ng ating glasswares. Yung Chem wipes kasi pag bilihin natin yon, kasi yon, wala siyang ganong particles. Wala siyang thread-like or hair-like particles na didikit. So yun yung mas magandang pang clean or pang wipe sa ating mga glasswares. Though it's more expensive syempre than the ordinary tissue paper. Okay? And then, pag nalinis na natin yung exterior surface ng ating pipette, then, siya, itatouch natin yung tip niya. If this is the pipette, we will get another container, not the container that we will use to transfer our liquid, ha. Another container ito kasi remember that the inside of the pipette, yung nilagay natin na solution is more than the graduation mark. So we have to make sure pa na yung solution natin hanggang dito sa graduation mark. We will get rid of the excess. So doon natin siya ilalagay sa another container. Now, kailangan dahan-dahan tayo sa pag-release ng ating forefinger to drain the excess. And then we have to make sure na tama talaga doon sa graduation mark yung matitira. Okay? And then we will be reading the lower meniscus if the solution is clear. So if this is the pipette class, so palakihin natin siya. This is the graduation mark. Ayan. We have to make sure na hanggang dito lang din yung ating liquid pag i-drain na natin yung excess. And then we will read the lower meniscus. So the lower meniscus is here. Ito yun, itong pinakababa na part, 'di ba? Kasi pa-curve kasi yung sa ating glassware. So the lower part is called the lower meniscus. And ito yung nire-read natin if the solution is a clear solution. Okay? Most of our solutions naman na pinapipette is clear, so we will be reading the lower meniscus. So ang tandaan ninyo, clear solution, read the lower meniscus. But if it's not clear, class, not clear like turbid siya na solution, you have to read the higher meniscus. So you will be reading here if hindi clear yung solution mo. Pero pag clear, class, dito ka sa lower meniscus. Okay, I hope that is clear. And then, if na-make sure na natin na nasa tamang mark na yung natirang liquid sa loob, that's the time that we will transfer the liquid to the receiving flask. Kung saan man natin siya gustong ilagay, whether it's an Erlenmeyer flask or a beaker, kung saan tayo mag-conduct ng ating experiment. Okay? So, i-drain lang natin siya by removing our forefinger. Okay? I-remove natin yung ating forefinger and then magde-drain lang yung liquid sa loob. Pero remember, if your pipette is not a blown out pipette, hindi siya necessary na ubusin mo talaga lahat ng laman sa loob. If nag-stop na siya ng flow, then that's it. Pero meron kasi tayong mga blown out pipette na kailangan ilabas lahat kasi kasali siya doon sa measurement. Okay? So, let's watch a video on how to do the measurement of the aliquot if we want to measure a liquid and then transfer it to another container. Okay, kasi remember, yung pipette talaga and the burette and even the volumetric flask yung ginagamit natin. When we want to measure exact volumes of liquid. Though we can use the graduated cylinder, but when it comes to accuracy, mas accurate kasi itong tatlong apparatuses na ito. Okay? And then yung nuulit-ulit ko sa inyo na beaker and Erlenmeyer flasks, though they have calibrations also, they have graduation marks, but we do not use it we do not use them para mag-measure ng volume ng liquid as they are not really accurate. Okay? So that is for the pipette. Questions, class, about the pipette? So ano yung Yeah, pag malapas siya, you have to repeat everything. Tama yan siya, George. You have to repeat everything pag malapas siya. At the same time, if nasa loob na yung solution ng pipette, hindi mo pwedeng ibalik yun sa kanyang container. Gaya ng sinabi ko kanina, na kapag nalapas na siya to, tapos imuha siyang kuhaan gamay, dili nimo siya ibalik dito sa yung original container kasi mahimo na to siya contaminated. So you have to discard, and if mali gyud imuhang gihimo, you have to discard everything. So kung nag-practice ka pa lang ng pipetting class, medyo mahirap siya, medyo hassle, and kailangan, this is a skill kasi yung pipetting, and as medical technologist pohon, kailangan expert mo sa paggamit sa pipette kasi you will be using pipette kapag ka nag-test mo, and then you have to measure exact volume of liquid. Okay? Yeah, timing is really important in pipetting. So ulit-ulitin niyo, tingin yung video until na ma-familiarize niyo yung procedure and how to clean and how to use the pipette. And para pag mag-practice tapuhon, it will be easier sa inyo ha kasi you know the steps already. Yeah, handwritten. Handwritten ito pero you don't need to copy everything ha. But you have the option to print this, and pag print ninyo, isulat yun na lang dito yung mga answers ninyo. But if you cannot print this, I do not require you to write everything. I just want you to write the answers like this one. Ito lang na part. And dito sa number 3, ito lang din na part. Explain the purpose of this procedure sa number 3. Ganun lang, ha? Kung susulat niyo lang siya na hindi kayo mag-print. Yeah, if you are sanay na with the pipetting, then okay na siya. Actually, lingaw man siya ang mag-pipette. Pero kailangan lang dyan siya praktisan sa first. Okay? So, how about the burette? Sino dito yung nakagamit na ng burette? Because burette is a bigger one compared to the pipette. So, yung pipette, I guess, meron lang siya hanggang 100 ml ba? Ay, pila ba to ang nakabutang sa... Depende siya sa pipette ha. Pero yung burette, medyo mas malaki talaga ito. Murag professional jud ka kung kabalo na ka mag-pipetting. Okay? I hope makapractice na tapuhon on how to use the pipette and at the same time the burette. So, syempre, before using the apparatus class, the number one step really is to clean it. Okay, so in cleaning, the same pa rin naman yung gagamitin natin in cleaning the burette. We have to use soap and then rinse natin siya with tap water and distilled water. Then you have to inspect water breaks. Kasi kapag may water breaks siya sa loob, it means hindi pa totally malinis yung ating burette, just like the pipette. Okay? So this is how you do the clean. Okay, so that's how you clean the burette. Kung nakita niyo sa pipette, parehas lang yung kanilang procedure na i-test muna kung malinis ba talaga siya. And the presence of water breaks inside the apparatus will indicate na ano siya, hindi siya malinis. So you have to clean it with the soapy water, pero hindi dapat masyadong marami na detergent yung gagamitin nyo kasi mahirapan na tayo mag-clean yan. And then, i-fill in lang natin siya with like distilled water or deionized water and then i-drain siya. Ang nagkaiba lang doon kasi si Burette meron siyang Burette brush na kagaya yung mukha niya is kagaya ng test tube brush pero mas mahaba. Okay? And then at the same time, si Burette ay may stopper or may stopcock. You can open it to drain and you can close it to stop the flow of the liquid. Whereas yung pipette natin is we use the pipette bulb to draw water, and at the same time we use our finger to stop the flow of the liquid. Okay? So yun yung kaibahan ni burette and ni pipette. Si burette naman mostly ginagamit natin for titration processes. Okay? So dito muna tayo sa filling before tayo mag-move on sa ibang part ng paggamit ng burette. Sa filling, you have to make sure na syempre naka-close yung stopcock kasi kung naka-open yan class, syempre magdi-drain lang yung water na nilagay. Ayan, ang kaibahan ni pipette and ni burette, si pipette is dinodraw natin ang water or yung solution upwards using the pipette bulb. Yung si burette naman is galing sa taas yung pag-fill ng solution. So, sa opening niya sa taas, dun mo lalagay yung solution mo. But before that, you have to add 5 to 10 ml of the solution to be dispensed doon sa loob ng burette, and you have to rotate the burette carefully to at the same thing with the pipette, you have to wet the interior surface of the apparatus. So the first na gagawin ninyo is to explain why we have to do this, why we have to wet the interior surface ng ating apparatus with the solution to be used. Okay? After wetting the interior surface, syempre you have to drain the liquid through the tip. You have to open the stopcock. And you have to repeat this procedure 2 or more times. After doing this procedure, that's the time we fill the burette with the solution to be used above the 0 mark. Okay? And then, you have to make sure also na no bubbles or air bubbles nakalagay doon sa loob kasi it will be an error to our measurement. Okay? And then, i-drain natin siya hanggang mapunta siya sa 0 mark. Okay, this is how we measure the burette. Okay? So, ang initial reading niya, class, is this one. Remember, lower meniscus. This is an actual experiment na ginawa namin sa school. Hindi kami nakapag-video totally kasi medyo mahirap. Like, kung ako, mag-solo flight ako ng video sa school, mahirapan ako mag-video at the same time ako yung nagkakandak ng experiment. So, ito na lang muna yung picture. We used a blue solution para mas madali niyong makita. And after washing na ito, oo, kaniyang gamiton actually. And then, nag-fill in kami ng liquid sa loob after washing. And kung nakita ninyo, this is a clear solution, though may color siya, pero clear solution siya. So, we will be using the lower meniscus. So, ang pag-read nito, class, is ito. This is the initial reading. Pababa kasi, class, yung pag-flow, diba? So, baliktad yung graduation mark ng burette. Nasa taas, nasa pinakataas yung 0. And then going downward. So kung mag-dispense ka ng volume ng liquid, i-open mo yung stopcock sa baba and then magfo-flow siya downwards. And then if you want to measure like 1 ml, then you stop here. I-close mo yung stopcock sa baba kung mapunta na siya dito sa 1 ml. So, ang meaning nun, nakadispense ka na ng 1 ml. Kung gusto mo naman 5 ml, then you have to drain the liquid hanggang dito sa 5 ml. Okay? So, ang pag-measure niyan, initial reading muna. So, for example, this one. Ito yung kanyang initial reading. And then, tapos kung naka-deliver ka na ng gusto mo na amount, you have to read the final reading. So, ito naman yung final reading, class. You have to read it carefully ha, kasi aanseran nyo ito. And then, i-minus nyo lang. How do you get the volume being delivered here? Our formula is final reading minus the initial reading. That will be the volume delivered by the burette. Okay? Questions? Kasi basahin nyo talaga ito. This one is the initial reading. You have to write here the initial reading. And then this one is the final reading. Remember to, since this is a clear solution, you have to read it in the lower meniscus. Okay? Hindi ko kasi siya sasagutan kasi kayo yung sasagot nito. I think they have a video. Tingnan ko ha kung sa video. Makikita niyo ito sa video. Wait, let me unshare this. Yung sa video, meron siyang mga bubbles. So, di ba, kinuha yung mga bubbles, we have two ways, opening the stopcock and then shaking the burette to get rid of the bubbles. No, ang mangyayari nun, hindi na magsi-zero yung initial reading. That is still okay, class. Kung hindi magsi-zero yung initial reading ng burette, you can still measure it. So, for example, this is the burette, and then this is the zero mark here. And then you have 1 ml. Meron pang mga reading dito sa gitna. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this is the 2 ml. So for example, class, dito ka nag-start. Ayan. Dito yung start ng initial reading mo. So take note na lower meniscus ka kung the solution is clear. So titingnan mo ngayon kung saan tumama yung wait, let me change the color of my pen. Saan tumama yung lower meniscus? So, dito siya tumama. Hindi ko kaya straight. So, for example, ito yung iyong lower meniscus. So, yung initial reading mo yan, class, if this is 1 ml, let's divide it. So, this is 0.2, 0.4, 0. Kulang di ay ako ang ibutang dapat. It's color red. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. Kulang isa na linya. So, dito na lang natin siya ilagay sa baba. Since this is just an example. So, this is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. So, your initial reading is now 0.6 ml. Ayan. Tapos, nag-drain ka ng water hanggang napunta siya dito. Dito siya napunta. Ay, kay dili man jud ko ka straight sulat. Wait. So for example, nag-drain ka na and then napunta siya dito. So the lower meniscus is right above the 2 ml mark. So for example, 2 ml after the draining. So isulat niyo siya dito, class. 0.6 ml yung initial reading and then 2 ml yung final reading. Now to get the volume delivered, we just subtract 2 ml minus 0.6 ml. So this is 1.4. Therefore, after draining, class, ang na-deliver mo na volume is just 1.4. So okay lang na kahit hindi siya nag-start sa 0, you can still get the volume of the delivered liquid just by reading the initial reading and the final reading sa burette. So sa activity ninyo, class, ito yung magiging picture niyan. So, basahin niyo kung what will be the initial reading for here. Take note that this is a clear solution, so you have to use the lower meniscus. So, isulat niyo dito yung initial reading. Tapos, dito naman, yung second picture will be the final reading. So, titingnan niyo dito ngayon kung ano ba talaga ang final reading niyan. And then, i-minus niyo, you will get the volume delivered. Questions about this? So i-download jud to ninyo ang copy sa activity ha para maklaro ninyo unsang volume na ang gi-measure din ha sa final reading. Okay? Questions? Wala? Mecca, nasabtan to Mecca?
Um,
Yes, Eden.
pag mag-reading, doon sa final, ma'am, sa lower meniscus, yapon, ma'am.
Yeah, lower meniscus kasi as you can see the solution, it's color blue but it's a clear solution. When you say a clear solution, even though may color siya, pero klaro makita mo lahat yung mga graduation mark dyan compared sa turbid na solution. Pag turbid na solution, it's similar to a cloudy solution. Pag ganun yung solution mo na cloudy siya, you have to use the higher meniscus. Ito, hindi naman siya cloudy. It's a clear solution. So, ano, um, lower meniscus siya. Yung clear solution na sinasabi ko, it doesn't mean na wala siyang color ha. Pwede siyang may color as long as clear siya. Hindi siya cloudy. Okay? So, you practice reading the burette class. Wala na bang question about the use of the burette? This is to deliver also. To deliver volumes of liquid. And then, accurate kasi ang burette when it comes to the reading. Okay? Yung example ko lang kasi kay 0.2, ito hindi 0.1 kasi ito kasi kung titingnan nyo, you will have many graduations here before sa 1 na mark, 1 ml. Okay? So that's for the burette. And then, the last apparatus that we use to measure volume of liquid is the volumetric flask, but the volumetric flask class is more on to contain na calibration. So just like the two apparatuses we discussed a while ago, volumetric flasks require cleaning also. And it can be cleaned also using a soapy na water or a detergent pero hindi ganun kadami para hindi tayo mahirapan maglinis ng ating volumetric flask. So, only rarely do they need to be dried. So, hindi naman all of the time na kailangan i-dry talaga natin yung ating volumetric flask. But if the procedure requires us to really dry the volumetric flask, then it is accomplished by clamping the flask in an inverted position. Ipabaliktad natin siya, class, na yung neck niya is nasa baba, and then i-connect natin siya with a glass tube into a vacuum. So, meron tayong vacuum na ginagamit para i-vacuum lahat ng water inside. So, that's how we dry the volumetric flask. Now, paano gamitin si volumetric flask class? Pwede siyang, kung gusto mo gumawa ng solution na magdi-dissolve ka ng solid and then lalagyan mo siya ng water, you can do direct weighing into the volumetric flask wherein ilalagay natin sa balance yung ating volumetric flask and ipapasok natin ang solid doon. Pero hindi kasi ito most of the time ginagawa na mag-direct weighing tayo sa flask. So most of the time, we do the dissolving na part sa iba na apparatus like beaker or Erlenmeyer flask, and then ita-transfer na lang natin siya sa volumetric flask. So let's see an example on how to use the volumetric flask para mas ma-picture out nyo. Ang volumetric flask, meron siyang stopper, and kung nakita nyo, as you observe, isa lang yung kanyang calibration. Kung it's volumetric flask for 10 ml, isang guhit lang talaga yun. And then, yung guhit na yun indicates na nasa 10 ml, mark ka na. So, if your solution again is a clear one, then lower meniscus pa rin tayo. Yun yung process ng pag-weigh directly ng inyong substance doon sa volumetric flask. Lagay mo volumetric flask and the funnel inside the analytical balance and slowly add the powder, and titingnan mo ngayon yung reading sa analytical balance kasi titingnan mo kung gaano kadami. So if it requires 1 gram, then stop ka na at 1 gram. Okay lang din kung magsobra siya ng 1 gram, a little lang na sobra, basta you take note kung what's the exact reading doon sa analytical balance. And then after weighing, then you remove it, labas mo siya sa analytical balance mo, and then you have to clean the funnel kasi doon sa funnel baka may mga dumikit pa na mga powder, and para mapunta siya lahat inside sa volumetric flask. And then slowly you add water until the graduation mark. And then after that, i-ano mo na siya, i-dissolve mo na yung powder mo inside. That's how you make a solution using a volumetric flask. So, pwede din naman kasing transfer of the liquid to a volumetric flask. Kung ito yung gagawin mo, you will be dissolving the powder into a separate apparatus like the beaker or the graduated cylinder. So, yung beaker, lagay mo sa analytical balance, doon ka mag-measure ng powder mo, and then lagyan mo lang siya ng konting water, and then i-dissolve mo siya doon, and i-transfer mo yung laman ng beaker sa Erlenmeyer flask. I-wash mo siya with water to thoroughly get rid of those particles na dumikit sa side ng beaker, and then i-transfer lahat doon sa volumetric flask. And then dagdagan mo na lang siya ng water hanggang doon sa kanyang graduation mark. So we call it dilution to the mark. Okay? So I guess I have a video. Um, yun ang piniliin niya is a liquid. So hindi siya kagaya nung first step na direct weighing doon sa volumetric flask. So this time it's a liquid. You just have to transfer it inside the volumetric flask using a funnel. And then after transferring is the dilution. So pag sinabing dilution, you will add your solvent, i-dilute mo ang iyong solution inside the volumetric flask, and then dahan-dahan until you reach the graduation mark so that you will get the exact volume. Yung ginamit niya na volumetric flask is a 250 ml. Therefore, lahat-lahat na the solution plus your solvent, which is the water, kapag ma-reach mo yung graduation mark, you will have a total of 250 ml using the volumetric flask. So ito yung tatlong equipment natin sa laboratory that will give us precise and accurate measurement sa ating volume. So we have again the pipette, the burette, and the volumetric flask. So sa inyong activity, you will just answer the guide questions. You have to make a schematic diagram of the procedures above. So lahat yon, you will be making a schematic diagram, and then you have to discuss the process of calibrating the three instruments, the pipette, the burette, and the volumetric flask. So you have to do research for this, okay? Aside from this one, the reading, the final reading, and the volume delivered, and the explanation of this procedure, as well as the type of pipettes. Ito yung gagawin nyo for the remaining time. However, if hindi kaya yung remaining time natin because it's 10:40 already, the deadline for this is Monday next week. Monday, 11:59 p.m. Okay? Questions, class, about activity number 4? Wala. Okay, and then please be reminded na reporters, group number 3, next week, Monday, you will be reporting the activity number 3. And then group 4, I believe you know already kung ano yung grupo ninyo, no? Group 4, please prepare also for activity number 4. Next week, Tuesday. Tuesday ang group 4 for the activity number 4, and Monday yung group 3. Okay? I hope nakuha